Good morning. It's Monday morning, and it's time once again to look back at the previous week and look ahead a bit. And last week was, I think, a very interesting discussion. Frankly, it made me feel my age a little bit when we start to talk about a company like Sears, which was a dominant force in at least American retailing and a major component in all of American business, and to suddenly see it practically gone is quite, maybe even a little disconcerting. It just shows me how much things have changed in the last several years. But the point of the whole unit was to discuss that exact word, change, and how different organizations have coped with the process of change, not done so well. What do we have to know about it? How do we have to think about it? How do we have to use it to our advantage if we're going to survive in a world that changes faster than we can imagine? And in a way, it's important that we did it right now in 2020 because we've had some other factors come in. Usually when we talk about change, which is kind of interesting, we always talk about it under normal circumstances, and we say that normal circumstances are a field for change no matter what in business, because business is a very dynamic field. But what we see now is, in the world we are living in the middle of a global pandemic, you have an external force which has superimposed itself on all the other factors and made the pace of change and the need for change and the types of change very different, even over and above what that we were already anticipating, and in some cases dealing with well, and in some cases not dealing with it very well. So I think it was a very interesting discussion, and I really inject myself into it sometimes, maybe a little strongly. But the one thing I think about change when I look at it, particularly from the business point of view, is the concept of value. Are you, as an entity or as an individual, providing value? If you're not providing value, then change will make you a victim. If you are providing a value and continue to provide value and maybe innovate in a new way to provide value, then change is your friend. And you have to learn how to manage it and how to manage yourself and your organization within it. Sears was an example of a company that did not do well with what was going on. And now it's a victim not only of its own internal circumstances, but the external forces have perhaps overtaken it to the degree that final reinvention may well be impossible. So it was just a really interesting discussion, and I want people to understand the concepts of change, managing change, thinking about it, understanding. Can you anticipate everything? No. But the idea is, think of things in terms of the development and delivery of value. If you deliver value, the marketplace will accept you. If you stop delivering value, the marketplace is not going to miss you. That's my basic premise on the whole week 5. The other thing, too, is to look at things from a different lens. And that's the reason I put in the material about the hedge fund operations. Hedge fund operations are very interesting. They're very different than what a lot of people are used to. And I think you might have had an opportunity to see how that the hedge fund model may actually have been working well. Yet when we looked at it through the lens of the retailing model, you'd say it was a disaster. And yet it might not have been a disaster from the hedge fund model. So these are some very complex things that we really don't have the capacity in this course to really dissect. But the point is looking at things from a different point of view, as I said a minute ago, through a different lens. Sometimes we might come to different conclusions. So that was very interesting. Now, you're going to move into week 6, and at the end of week 6, we will be at the 3/4 point of our course, and rapidly closing in on the end. And as we've been emphasizing all along, the pattern of this course is for each week, each succeeding unit, to build on what's gone before, and we have that happening again. And now we're going to take on all these factors we've been working on to this point, and we're going to come into a section on decision making. And it's more on organizational decision making than personal. But again, you can see, I will stay, as you go through the material, you'll see the connections between the two models of decision making as an individual, decision making as a collective group, as an organization. There's many similarities. But what we want to look at is the methods and the structures that organizations use to make decisions. And also, in parallel with that, you're going to be looking at how do organizations learn. By extension, we'll also talk a little bit how do individuals learn. So you're going to be introduced to the concepts of organizational decision making and organizational learning. Is your organization a learning organization? And what does that mean? And if you're not one, how do you become one, or should you become one? So these are the topics for this week. Again, it's a little bit of a writing intensive week. We're back to that. And I think I've seen a lot of progress there. I've seen some things that I've had to speak to some people about, which are being, these are things need to be handled. I want everybody to start thinking ahead, because next week, in week 7, is when your major assignment is due for this course. And therefore, at the end of week 6 of Unit 6, you will find a heads up, an introduction, a preview of the week 7 assignment. Take a look at it. If you have questions, start asking them now, because that week 7 assignment is 30% of your grade. And that's the way the course has been structured, and it's a very effective way of coming to a near end. But it's some things that you may want to ask questions about. Obviously, do it now. The earlier you ask, the more you have time to work with the answer. So we transition, once again, from one topic to another, and they build on each other. We go from what we talked about last week, which was change and change management and value, and now we go into decision making and how does that affect things going forward and in the short term. So once again, building. That's what your final paper, Unit 7, is going to be about. Building on all the things we have touched upon. And so start thinking on how do all these concepts fit together? And how will I present them in that final assignment? So thank you very much for your attention again. And I will try to attempt, again, I'm going to attempt to keep to my normal grading schedule. I think we can do it this week. It could be a little tight with the amount of writing assignment that was there this week, but I think we're on track to do it. Everybody is really now in that stage where if you have any outstanding work that we have talked about, need to submit, things that we've granted extensions for or anything like that, make sure you get them in now while there's still a little bit of breathing room in order to get things done, because I'm sure if you are taking another course as well, the crunch is coming, and let's just be realistic about it. Okay? So again, if there's any questions you have for me, I appreciate your attention, and I'm looking forward to this week. Thank you very much.